reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network.
You're listening to The Happy Hearthstone. This show is brought to you by Doghouse Systems. Choose your weapon with Doghouse Systems. By Audible. Get your free audiobook and your free trial today. By GoDaddy. Put your website to work while you play. If you'd like to directly support this show and the nice people who make it, you can find more information at gamediplomat.com/donate. Hello and welcome to episode 40 of the Happy Hearthstone podcast, the longest running Hearthstone podcast in the history of space and time and cards. I'm your host, Josh Augustine, and this week I am joined by the current reigning Happy Hearthstone deck champion, Scott Lance.
Hello.
Hello, Scott. It's good to have you back. How have you been, buddy?
Thanks. I've been pretty good.
Yeah? Life is treating you well?
It is. Work's busy and home life is fun and life is good.
How is your Hearthstone life?
I took a break for about a month and a half, but I'm back and starting to enjoy it. I'm really looking forward to that expansion. I'm hoping it comes out in the next week or two.
Yeah, and Goblins versus Gnomes. It looks so fun. I want to sing the song right now, but I'm not going to.
That should be your card of the week song.
Oh, that should. All right. I'm making a note. It's going to happen. Love that. Wait, you're just trying to get out of singing that card of the week song. You can't fool me.
I almost did.
How about you sing that song for the Guard of the Week song?
I actually don't know the Goblins versus Gnomes song.
Man, this is 2 guests in a row that haven't seen this video. How is this possible, Scott?
So I've heard other people do the song, but it hasn't stuck with me.
It's literally impossible that song is not stuck with you, Scott. It's the stickiest song I've ever heard in my life. It's like pop music. It's incredible. All right, let's talk about why we're happy this week. Why don't you go first, because mine is going to be cray long.
Oh, well, for me, yesterday my daughter got to experience her first real snow here in Seattle.
Oh, cool.
Yes, that was pretty neat watching her play around. We went and bought her some winter clothes, and I mean, it wasn't a whole lot. It was maybe half an inch or something like that, but enough to make little snowballs and for her to tromp around in.
Did she throw the snowball at you?
She doesn't have that much dexterity, but she was, doing whatever she could with it. Yep. And I'm happy the expansion's about to come out for Hearthstone. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen a couple people predicting next week, but I don't know. That seems pretty early to me. I think it's going to be mid-December. But either way, I've got my holiday money saved up and ready to buy some packs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been starting to save up some gold. I got some Battle.net balance I'm prepared to burn.
Oh, nice. How did you get Battle.net balance? I've never had that.
I spent some money in the Heroes of the Storm beta. I was like, I'm going to get this back. I know I'll use it eventually. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And they give it to you in a game agnostic form, so you can spend it anywhere?
Yeah, it's not quite as good as Cash in Pocket, but it essentially came back as
nice.
The money I spent during or I guess it was the technical alpha before the wipe, came back as a Battle.net balance.
Awesome. Well, I am happy that I finally set up a donations page for this show. A few very kind listeners have been asking me to set something like this up for a while, and I just never got around to it. It's been one of those things, that's on your to-do list, and just every week you're like, I'll push it to next week. I'll push it to next week, and it just kept getting pushed. Finally sat down yesterday and got it done. I do a lot of different shows and guide series on my site, gamediplomat.com, and give it all away for free, obviously. So if you feel like you've gotten a lot of value out of the show, you can consider donating to keep things running smoothly. There are a bunch of stretch goals. Also, they'll get more episodes for this show and more content overall. You can check all that stuff out. gamediplomat.com/donate. All right, let's jump into the news chat, Scott, because this is the more interesting stuff. There have been a ton of card reveals.
Yeah, there have for the expansion.
Yeah, for the expansion.
Yeah.
For Goblins versus Gnomes, Goblins and Gnomes. Goblins and Gnomes.
There it is.
There you go. All right, so I don't want to talk about all the cards because that's going to be a whole show in itself. But let's just talk about our favorite card that we saw get revealed recently. I'll go first. Druid of the Fang. I think it was Polygon revealed this one. It's a Druid card, a Druid creature. It's 5 cost, 4/4, with a battle cry. If you have a beast, transform this minion into a 7/7. What?
Yep. Yeah, so that's the first non-hunter card to reward you for having beasts, I think.
Yeah, because immediately I was like, what sort of neutral beasts are there? Like, are you going to be running boars in that deck, or?
Well, they're out there, and then some of the druid cards, one of their forms comes in as either like bear form or tiger form.
Oh, are those actually classified as beasts?
I think so. I could be wrong.
Okay, that would be awesome. Yeah, that's the Druid of the Claw.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
you can't see the actual final version of it. So you
And
just
I think Hearthstone would probably have it if you look it up. They've got all the quote unquote
right.
token cards, but
Either way, it looks really fun. I'm excited to. I love when you get new styles of decks, right? Like a Druid Beast deck. Like that's immediately interesting to me. My mind starts racing. Like, okay, what can I put in there? You got the Silverback Patriarch and stuff like that. But man, if you can get a 7/7 for 5, that is crazy value.
heck yeah. And I mean, there's some good ones out there like Jungle Panther, and then there's what's that card? Either gives all your guys +1/+1, or gives you a 3/2 Panther. That's a beast.
Oh yeah, that's right. What is that?
Power
Wild.
of the Wild.
Sounds right. I'm looking it up.
Yeah, I think it's something
Yeah,
like
Power
that.
of the Wild. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great card on its own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, okay, you're intriguing me with these Panthers. That sounds right. All right, so what's your card?
My card is the Steam Weedle Sniper. Now this is a hunter card. It's 2 mana for a 2/3, which is already like a what is it, that River Crocolisk, I think.
Yep.
This one has an ability though. Your hero power can target minions. Whoa! So it's funny because it's kind of like the priest, the two different cards that turn priests into more like shadow priest types that can hurt things instead of healing them. But now it takes it from your hero power only being able to target the enemy hero and makes it so they can hit any of the minions. So it's interesting because Hunter to me is always kind of like a fast-paced burn down class, because that's what their hero power excels at, is like closing the distance. Like, okay, I see you got all these taunt creatures up, but you only have 2 hit points left, so I'm just going to use my hero power. That's how they work, is just to try to hurry up and punch face. This seems like it would be a more of a control variant. Like if you're going for long-term control, and sure, you can still fit in your hero power if there's no minions to target. You can still go after the face, but this is all about transferring it from being fast to being control.
Yeah, and man, 2 damage anywhere you want is huge control.
Yeah,
every
it is.
turn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is my favorite comment here. The very top comment was a quote attributed to all hunters in 2014. And the quote is, "Seems balanced." This card is going to be very powerful. I'm excited. I'm excited because I always liked Control Hunter more than Face Punch Hunter anyways. They have a lot of really cool spells and tricks that you can use that just kind of don't get taken advantage of because you just want to punch face.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Man,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's a shame that it's not a beast, but other than that, I mean, the stats are fine for the cost, and the bonus, as huge as it is really just kind of a bonus.
Yeah. It's one of those cards that I really like that's great on turn 2, and it's great on turn 10. Just because the utility it provides is so strong. All right.
And if you've got 4 mana, you can not only bring out the 2/3, but then you can use your hero power to knock something out unexpectedly.
Yeah, right away. Man, and that's going to help keep this guy alive for longer, so you can use it next turn too.
That's right.
All right. Enough talking, Scott. I don't want to pretend that I'm your friend. I want to be your nemesis on the battlefield this week, because we are doing a deck battle.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are. So we do these deck battles about once a month, or in the case of this, because we're coming off of our long break, once every 4 months. This is where a host brings on their favorite deck onto the show and breaks it down for you, telling what cards they put into it, how it works, why they like playing it, and then we put the deck to the test by doing battle in a best-of-3 series between me and a co-host. The twist is that one of us is always using the reigning champion deck of the show, the last deck that a guest brought onto the show and won with. So we have a new defending champion deck this episode, Scott's Survival Paladin deck that beat Redbeard's Barbarian Warrior in our last deck battle. Congratulations again, Scott.
Thank you.
Sir Champion Scott. I don't know. We need like a title for you. Deck Master.
Sure, I'll take it.
Deck Master Scott. If you want full details on what the Survival Paladin deck is, how you can build it, all that information is on episode 35 when it was first introduced, which we should know, Scott, was before the Naxxramas cards came out, so it's missing a lot of the Naxxramas cards that you've put in there since then, right?
That's right. I had to go back and rebuild an old version of my deck because I've evolved it so much then. So I've returned it to its original state as per that deck battle.
Awesome. So actually, Scott, if you wouldn't mind, maybe you could build a new version of it just on Hearthstone or whatever, and we'll put a link to it in the show notes. So if people do jump back and see, they can see kind of the revised version of what you're doing.
Yeah, I think I've already got it up there, but if not, I'll put it up there. No worries.
Cool. Awesome. So if you go back to episode 35, which I recommend, go listen to it, but just keep in mind that the deck list there is kind of old. But now, for the first time since the very first deck battle on this show, many, many moons ago, about 2 years ago. Wait, 2 years? No, a year and a half? Year and a half? Year? I don't know.
Year
A
and a
long
half, I
time
think,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah, a year and a half ago. I'm stepping off of my comfy hosting chair to step down into the arena and make my own challenge. I've put together a full deck list for my deck, along with some commentary for the deck that I'm going to be playing today. So you can build it and try it out for yourself. All that's going to be on GameDiplomat.com. But let's talk about my deck, Scott. What do you think?
Yeah, so what are you bringing to the table here, Josh?
All right, so my deck. So your deck is the survival paladin, right? Sounds very impressive, right? Oh, Scott, surviving all the time, so cool. But what my deck is the last Standin paladin deck. It's a different twist on kind of the long life paladin deck that you've been winning with. When Naxxramas pushed aggro down the ranks, just to give some context, I fully embraced the long games, right? Especially right after Naxxramas, nobody was playing aggro. So I just built a paladin deck that would beat other control decks. Its goal was just to outlive everyone. So that just means like big fatty minions, tons of healing, and just enough low-cost cards to guarantee that I make it to turn 8 in one piece. Which isn't too hard to do with Paladin, thankfully, because they've got a lot of nice tricks.
All right, so how are you going to do all that healing?
Oh, let me tell you how I'm going to do all that healing. That's the thing I love about Paladin. So I played around with different versions of this deck with Shaman and Druid. Especially Druid has that really nice 8 health restore spell, which is really nice. But man, Paladins have the Guardians of the Kings that are dropping down all the time, healing. I mean, their weapons heal, their troops heal, their spells heal. They got healing coming out the wazoo, and I don't have to waste. Because, alright, well, I don't want to say waste, but I tried this deck with Priest as well. And it's a liability to have to rely on 2 mana every turn to cast your heal spell on yourself. It's so much better when you can combo it onto troops or onto other utility and just kind of get it as gravy.
Yeah. All right, so what else you got in there for the long game?
All right, so the long game is pretty much just like I said, it's big fatties, right? So let's see. I'll run down the list here real fast. I don't want to make you scared, Scott, but just 5 cost and above, or let's do 7 cost and above. 2 Guardians of Kings, a Stormwind Champion, Gruul, Kel'Thuzad, Alexstrasza, and a Sea Giant.
Holy cow.
Right? And the other half of the deck is 4 and 5 cost. So it's like, if I can... The thing I love about this deck, and I actually didn't realize it until this morning as I was riding my bike. I don't know why that's when I realized something about my Hearthstone deck, but it was. I would be happy to draw every single card in this deck on turn 10. And there's no other deck that I've built that I could say that. The weakest draw on turn 10 in this entire deck is Sword of Justice. And even that's not a bad draw on turn 10.
Fine.
Yeah, everything else is like not a single card. And that's what I love about it. There's all the low cost stuff is there, and I can use it in the early turns if I'm in trouble. But if not, I just hold on to it, keep spamming that 1/1 hero power, and then get even more value out of that stuff in late game.
So am I just going to have to go fast in order to beat you? I'm trying to figure out what your weaknesses are here.
Yeah, so you're scouting me out?
Yeah.
So I have run into trouble, actually. Adam, one of the other co-hosts that hates Murloc Warlock, will appreciate this. The biggest trouble I ran into was Murloc Warlock, who dropped 2 of the Murloc War Leaders on like turn 4, I think. And it's just like, if you can kill me before turn 6 or so, I'm in trouble. Because usually I can use Equality, I can use Consecration to kind of clear the board. But if I don't draw those cards and you're punching me heavy early on, I'm in trouble because I can gain health. I think one of the most extreme health swings I had was something I went from like 6 to like 24 or something in one turn, so I can do those big health swings.
Man.
Yeah. But and it's so nice because with like Earthen Ring Farseers, which was the late addition to the deck, like I can trade and heal myself in the early game. If you're going aggro, I toss down Blessing of Wisdom, and it's just like, do you really want to punch me for 2 every turn, or do you want to give like, if you're giving me cards every time? So that's kind of like a semi-healing spell as well, which I used it for. But mid game is fun with this deck. It's mostly just preparation and setup, right? Late game is where I'm gonna win. So early game is just stalling, healing myself up. Mid game, you're throwing down the Stalag, the Shades of Naxxramas, the Swords of Justice, the True Silver Champions. I mean, these just make sure that the enemy is, one, wasted a lot of removal on stuff like Stalag and Shades of Naxxramas by the time we get to late game, so they don't have removal left from my actual threats. And then with stuff like Swords of Justice and True Silver Champions, they're going to make sure that whatever I drop, even if I draw an Acidic Swamp Ooze, it's still going to drop down as, you know, a viable threat on turn 5.
Yeah. Wow.
So there you go. Boom. I will say, so I started playing this deck in ranked yesterday. I went from 20 to 15 with about 2 losses, I think. But right around 14, right on the cusp of 14, I ran into all these aggro decks, and that's what gave me trouble. I did run into one almost exact mirror deck. That was actually really funny because I haven't seen many people play this deck yet, which is why I was featuring it. But we did stuff like, I dropped down Shade of Naxxramas. He dropped down Shade of Naxxramas. I dropped down Fugan. He dropped down Fugan. And then, to top it off, I dropped down Alex Straza to put him at 15. And I was like, oh, I'm going to win because we had the same board. He dropped down Alex Straza to put me at 15.
What?
And he was able to attack first because I had to deal with his taunt guy. And so he ended up beating me. But it's super weird where it's like, there was one card that he had. Oh, he had the Aldor Protectors. Is that the right name? The 3/3 that changed an attack to 1.
Yeah, those are really good.
Yeah, so I don't have those, and I haven't crafted them yet, and I probably should. But so I tossed in an Acidic Swamp Ooze instead, and so I dropped down my Acidic Swamp Ooze, and he dropped down that guy on like my big fatty, and I was just like, ah, man, he has the deck I wish I had. And so that's one. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, those are amazing. They're like removal attached to a decent body for a very reasonable cost.
Yeah. Yeah, he used it to very good effect. Because Humility is a harder sell, right? Because it's a whole card. But when it's attached to that body, it is good.
Yep.
The thing I really like about this deck, and kind of the reason why I'm featuring it as well, is there are actually very few cards in here that you aren't given for free. Most of the cards are either common, which, you know, aren't necessarily given for free, but if you've opened a few packs, you probably have them, like Earthen Ring Farseer. And then a bunch of Naxxramas cards. Most of the legendaries like Fugan, Stalag, Kel'Thuzad, those are all from Naxxramas for free once you own the pack. And stuff like Gruul, I mean, you can replace with pretty much any big guy. You don't have to have this legendary that I just happened to open. So I really like this deck just because it's so easy to build. And what I did is, because I don't own all the cards, right? In my deck list, which is going to be on GameDiplomat.com, I'll list all the cards. I also put a list of, you know, substitutes if you don't have the cards that I have, the few kind of epics and legendaries that I'm using in there. But then I also put upgrades, so that if you have more cards than me, stuff like the Aldor Peacekeeper, that's the sort of stuff that I listed in there. If you have this, use this instead of me. Make a better version than I can.
Yeah. So what are the big cards you got in there? You said you got Guardian of Kings sounded like a big one. Kel'Thuzad sounds key.
Yeah, Kel'Thuzad, actually. So let me tell you a fun story that people that follow me on Twitter will already have known. When I was testing this deck yesterday, I had Kel'Thuzad and I have the Fugan and Stalag combo, which is from Naxxramas. Just a reminder, if both of those die, each time they die, you summon Thaddeus, which is an 11/11 on your side of the board. And yesterday I pulled off the combo, right? I pulled off the dream where I had Kel'Thuzad and Fugan, which is the... Oh, wait, no, I had Stalag, the 7/4. And then I had a Faceless Manipulator in my hand. And he had something on the board I could trade with. I forget what it was. But I was able to basically Faceless Manipulator to get another 7/4, trade so that he died, summoned an 11/11, and then Kel'Thuzad brought the 7/4 back. and then I could just keep trading those 7/4s every turn to just continually generate 11/11s until I had a board that was full with minions. There was Kel'Thuzad and 6 11/11 Thaddiuses. It was so good. Like, so I got 5 of those naturally, right? This was in a ranked game against a mage. So he was removing where he could, but his removal wasn't good. It was fireballs, right? So he couldn't get Kel'Thuzad. He was killing my trying to whittle down my 11/11s and stuff like that. But I got 5 of them naturally in a ranked game. And then he was kind, right? He should have just surrendered because he was clearly dead next turn. But he passed and let me do it again so I could get all 6 of them and then just punch face so I could get the screenshot. It felt good.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
So that's my plan for beating Scott today, is to get those 6 11/11s again. I think it's going to work. But anyways, the other 3 key cards in this deck is Sludge Belcher. I mean, we've talked about it on this show a bunch. It's just the ideal staller for any late game deck. It combos well with Kel'Thuzad if you get him late too. Earthen Ring Farseer was a late addition to this deck that actually has made a huge difference. When I started running into problem with those aggro decks, I can't remember what I had the Wind Fury Berserk. No, what is it? The Worgen. Angry Worgen.
Oh, yeah. Raging Worgen.
Raging Worgen. I had 2 of those in here instead of the Earthen Ring Farseers to try and bait out removal. And also because it combos well with the Sword of Justice. But I just kept losing to aggro decks. And this Earthen Ring Farseer has just been a godsend. I mean, healing so it's 3 health each. If you happen to get both, it's 6 health and bodies to trade. I mean, it's just the perfect early game staller. And then the last one is Argent Protector, right? It's just great no matter when you use it. It's one of the reasons you play Paladin decks in general, I think. 2 costs for a 2/2 that gives a Divine Shield when it comes into play. I mean, this is one of those cards I mentioned where having cards that are great in the early game, but also you're happy to draw on turn 10. I mean, if you're drawing this on turn 10, you're using it to save one of your monsters. It's just so valuable.
Man, yeah.
So that's the deck. What do you think, Scott? Are you scared?
I'm scared. I wish I had my Nax cards to help me.
Yeah.
But I will do what I can. It was in pretty good shape before Nax. It might hold up. I don't really recall.
Yeah, so I should clarify. I put a cruel restriction on Scott that I think is good for the health of this deck series. But when we build decks and we feature them, whenever they win on the show, like so Scott won 4 months ago with his deck, the deck is kind of frozen in time. That reigning champion deck has to stay the same. If something gets like horribly nerfed, right, or just kind of out of the ground, then okay, then maybe we'll swap that one card out. But I didn't let him put in all the Naxxramas cards because it's supposed to be how long can this deck stand on its own without changing against all challengers. That's kind of the theme of the deck challenge. So that's why we're going to put a new version out so you can try. But today, Scott is stuck with the deck he made 4 months ago. Scott, if you hadn't won, I mean, it just wouldn't be a problem. Then you wouldn't have to worry about, staying the same forever.
Yeah, it's first world problems.
All right, so the Paladin deck has held off only 1 challenger before this fight. Are you ready to do this, Scott?
I am. Let's do this.
All right, so we're going to go do a best of 3 series right now, which you can watch in its entirety in our show notes on GameDiplomat.com or on our Twitch channels, which we'll link to in the show notes as well. And then we'll be right back. All right, we're back from the games, and Scott, what have you done to me?
Well, you did great the second game.
I did, man. So, all right, let me get the excuses out of the way. So, I didn't draw a single healing card in the first 2 games. I never had Consecrate and Equality in my hand at the same time.
I didn't see any equalities.
Yeah, so I drew 1 at the very end of the last game when it's like, well, it doesn't matter. I couldn't have followed it up with anything. Man, that was painful. So the first game was kind of what I'm used to when playing against kind of aggressive decks, right? You drop down tons of 1/1s, 2/2s, 2/3s, and we're just punching face. It was too much for me to remove. But then later, the second game went pretty well. I stalled you out okay, came back with a nice comeback. But man, third game was just painful. Every single turn you were playing troops, and every single turn I was praying for a Consecrate, an Equality, anything, and just nothing was coming. I had nothing but drop down lesser troops in front of you.
Yeah, that third game, I just kept getting I felt like I kept getting kind of a stronger and stronger foothold. Like every turn, either the number of creatures or the size of my creatures that were left on the board just kept growing.
Yeah.
And so my advantage kept going. And then I drew a Tyriad and I was just like, yeah.
Yeah, I can.
And the turn after I drew a Redemption. So then I put that down. I'm like, so kill my Tyriad. And it was the only thing with Taunt. I was holding on to creatures with Taunt in my hand. I had a Sun Fury Protector, I think it was called. You know, the guys that give taunt to the two guys on either side of them. And I had a Ascension Shield Master. And I just didn't want to play either of them because I wanted that. I wanted you to have to go through Tyrion so he'd come back with his Divine Shield and Taunt.
Yeah. As soon as I saw the secret drop, I was like, oh, man. But, like, that game was so frustrating. I was praying for. I have 2 silences in the deck, and maybe I need more. I have 2 Spellbreakers in there, and man, the fact that I couldn't get to your Harvest Golem and remove him. He had Blessing of Wisdom every single turn. Scott was drawing double the cards, and just every turn is like, give me a Consecrate, I'll kill it. Give me a Silence, I'll get rid of it. Give me an Equality, I'll kill it. Like nothing was coming. Every single turn was just like, hey, do you want a Stormwind Knight? No, that doesn't help me kill this thing. That's not what I want.
Yeah, I got that thing up to a 6/3 with. Well, it was because I threw a Blessing of Kings and a Blessing of Wisdom on it.
Yeah,
and I traded for
Divine
something
Shield
early on. Yeah, at one point I put Divine Shield on it to like swipe at something big, and I drew a card while doing it. Yeah, he was like, I was over here on my voice chat saying like, okay, you know, if I can keep this guy alive, like there's only so many turns he can be hit for 6 and I draw an extra card from this guy. Yeah. So it's all about keeping him alive.
That number of turns turns out to be about 7. And then it's game over.
Yeah, like you gained a lot of health one turn. You played like a Lay on Hands and I think like a Guardian of Kings.
So I don't actually have Lay on Hands. That's one of the cards I recommend putting in here if you own it. I don't own it. So I played Guardians of Kings and Holy Light, I think it is.
That was okay.
Yeah,
Holy Light.
So 12 health back, and then I got to play Alexstrasza too.
Yeah.
When I was at like 4 health or something, brought it back up to 15. But at that point, you still had lethal on the board because you had like 20 damage on your side. The game had kind of scaled out of control at that point.
Yeah, the last couple turns you were healing like mad, but I was just able to whittle it all back down in one turn.
Yeah, it was that's painful. Your deck is still as annoying to play against as I remember, Scott.
Yeah, well, you don't have all the new Nax annoyances in there.
That's true. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, because instead of the Ascension Shield Master, I've got 2 Sledge Belchers now.
Yeah.
I had another Aldor Peacekeeper because I only had 1 at the time, but now I've got 2.
Nice.
I just crafted it. I was like, man, this deck needs it. I like this deck.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably. I need to craft those. I think I need Lay of Hands in this deck. It just fits in so well.
Yeah.
Man, I felt a little bad for you once, Scott, when I played Sludge Belcher, and then the next turn you played Ascension Shield Master, and I was like, oh, Scott, I'm sorry you're having to play the bad version.
Yeah, that's all right.
All right. So overall, though, I still like this deck. Right. These games are not outside of what I've seen in the ranked play, right? Where against just super aggressive decks, my deck struggles. It honestly hasn't struggled that bad as it did against you here. Because normally I have at least 1 Holy Light or a Guardian of Kings, which I didn't have the first 2 games, just to kind of give yourself some buffer room. But when you don't have any of those heal cards, aggro decks, like you can see in these videos, you should probably watch Scott's side. It's probably more entertaining. Mine is just a spiral of depression that just explodes at the end. But yeah, so it's very painful to play against aggro cards, not unlike most control decks, right? There's some control decks excel against aggro cards or aggro decks, but this one definitely does not. It just tries to survive aggro decks. So
yeah, but you've got some cards in there that'll do good against aggro. Like a Sludge Belcher can trade for like 3 aggro things once you get it down.
Yeah, unless all of those aggro things have Divine Shield, like your lovely ones did. But yeah, there are definitely a lot of cards, right? Like I still think the Earthen Farseer is a great anti-aggro card. The Sludge Belcher, Consecration is even great. There's been several games where I didn't even need the equality to go with it. You just consecrate and it does It takes out 3 or 4 things with it, which is fantastic. But it still feels like maybe I'm missing something more reliable. Because like in this deck, it's just I had nothing coming down that could help me keep you off.
Yeah, if you can get a Tyrion in there, I think that would make a world of difference.
Yeah,
I know you don't have it; you have to craft it, but it would really help.
Yeah, so I like this deck enough that I'll probably start investing in it because I've played this deck for a while, but I've been bouncing between Druid, Shaman, and Paladin. I think I like the Paladin version best, so I think maybe I will start investing in it. Because, man, but it's just, oh man, I have to craft an epic, 2 rares, and a legendary? That's going to be a lot of dust, my friend. A lot of dust.
It's true.
Although I do have, what is that, the golden, what's the 04 that gives a copy of a spell? It's
Nat Pago?
No, the Pandaren. So, Lower Walker Cho.
Yeah.
So I have a golden one of those that I just like because it's a golden legendary, but I think I could get rid of that and craft a normal Tyrion, and that's probably a better trade overall.
Yeah, if you're willing to go all in on Paladin, Tyrion's just a card you will want around. I don't really build. I took it out of my super aggro deck at the end, but it's in every other Paladin deck I build.
Yeah. All right, so I'm still excited about this deck. I had fun playing it, even though I lost. It's incredible against other control decks, right? It really is. I built it because at the current time there was no aggro in the meta, and then I revised it to kind of deal with aggro a little bit. But it still is. I've only lost to one person, I believe. Ooh, I don't want to lie, but I think I've only lost to one person. I played about 20 games. I only lost to one person after turn 8. If the game goes late, it's just this deck is unbeatable because you're dropping 7/7s or 8/8s every turn. You're giving them Divine Shield, that sort of stuff. So I still recommend people play it, but also definitely try out Scott's deck in the new version because man, that deck is crazy.
Yeah, and it's fun. The redemption shenanigans and the newer version. Let's see. I think in the newer version I might be running a Sylvanas Windrunner, Cairn. I mean, I'm getting close to completing my collection, so I take for granted I've got a lot of these legendaries now. But it's a lot of fun to play cards with the Death Rattle Shenanigans and then play Redemption, because a lot of times people see those as the biggest threats. They try to kill them, and then you get their ability again.
Yeah, and it's funny how stuff with man, I'm terrible with card names today. Apparently, the 3/1 with Divine Shield.
Oh yeah, yeah, I forget what it's called, but yes.
Yeah, that one. I mean, it's amazing how well it works with that, because that was I think in our second game. That's what redemption procced off of. Because I couldn't remember which seeker you had. I thought you had the defender, the 2/1 whenever you attack.
Oh right.
So
right.
I attacked thinking, okay, well this guy'll just eat the 2/1, and then it's like, oh no, I brought back the 3/1 with Divine Shield. What have I done? Because it's like, man, now I have to attack this thing 2 more times to get rid of it. Yeah, that is a really strong combo. So I got to know, Scott, with your new version, is that still kind of your go-to deck?
It was for a long time. I've been switching over to a Death Rattle Shaman deck that has. It's funny because both kind of center around Death Rattle shenanigans, but while the Paladin version is more about having things out that won't die. I mean, and that's why I call it survival. It's not so much that you, the player, are surviving. It's that your guys are surviving and just they can't be killed, so that you've always got things to throw at your opponent's creatures or their face. The Shaman variant I'm playing also uses Death Rattle shenanigans, but it's a very different kind of deck. It's a lot of bursty damage and just a lot of raw efficiency. So I use Kel'Thuzad is particularly big in there because I also run the Shaman cards Reincarnate and Ancestral Spirit. Mm-hmm. So if you can throw either one of those on a Kel'Thuzad, then you're going to get at least 2 Kel'Thuzads out of the deal, which is awesome. I run Cairn Bloodhoof. I run Sylvanas Windrunner because they both have awesome Death Rattle effects. I run the Nerubian Egg, and then I run Flame Tongue Totem and Rockbiter weapons. And I've also got the guy who gives Wind Fury. He's like a 3/3 and puts Wind Fury on somebody
I
else.
love that card, by the way.
Yeah. So, that goes well with the Rockbiter weapon, because not only can you like double the damage of a card, but if you have Rockbiter weapon for 1 more mana, you can do 6 extra damage as part of that burst. And it's got Earth Elementals and Fire Elementals, and so if I can get like either one of those or a Kel'Thuzad to like live for a turn, then I can give him Wind Fury. I mean, that's like 18 damage in a turn from 1 minion. And a lot of times if I can just sort of gently poke at somebody, get them down to 15 or 20, I get that like 1 turn near the end that just blows them away. And same thing if I've got like a Flame Tongue Totem, you put that next to the Wind Fury guy. I mean, there's just a lot of interesting synergy in there. And with all the Death Rattle shenanigans, like I can put down a Nerubian Egg, and then I can drop a Reincarnate on it, and it's just a 2-mana 4/4, and I still have the egg, for later use.
Yeah.
It's so neat.
Yeah, I remember when you were first describing this deck to me, it's just like, because I know you tend to shy away from what you call high maintenance cards, right? Cards that require certain synergies, but there's so much synergy, like so many different cards that synergize with so many different other cards in so many different ways in that deck that it doesn't even seem like a burden, because if you pick any 3 cards, 2 of them are going to synergize together.
Yeah, and that's the idea with Nerubian Egg. I mean, sometimes, my opponent will fire like a Flame Strike or a Consecrate, and they'll get burned that way. But, it's like at some point during this game, I'm going to draw either a Rockbiter weapon or a Flame Tongue Totem, or I think I have the 2/2 that gives +1 attack to the things next to it. So, like all these different cards can combo it. I can use my Reincarnate to get a 4/4 just like instantly from it. Yeah, there's just so many different combos. I can give it Taunt, via a couple different mechanisms. So yeah, it's not really a liability in that deck. It's inevitable. I will get at least a 4/4 out of it, maybe a couple.
Even a couple.
Yeah, often a couple. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so Scott, congratulations. You've won now 2 fights with your deck. Okay.
No, this is the third. No, this is second. That's right.
Yeah, it's just been so long. But you beat Redbeard to take the throne, and then you just fought off my deck, which I thought actually had a pretty good chance. Congratulations.
Thanks.
You are the, what do we say, Deck Master, Scott. You still have the title.
That can be my MC name.
Of course, GameDiplomat.com, we're going to have the full deck list for my deck, which I still think you should try out. It's really good in the meta right now. I think, even though aggro deck is getting more popular, still fun. Try it out. We'll also link to Scott's deck so you can build that as well, of course. All right, let's look at our question from the community. Derek Fonts, who's actually hosted a couple episodes with us, wants to know our thoughts on the new meta. So I kind of just touched on this a little bit, but I really liked how it slowed down when Naxxramas came out. It was a huge swing from hyper aggro to hyper control. And I really like where it is now, where there's still, there's some aggro creeping in, but there's control is still pretty dominant. It feels fairly balanced overall.
Yeah, and I feel like there were a few periods where there were decks that were really dominating, and I feel that those have gotten kind of like nerfed or designed out. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to things just being shaken up insanely when the new expansion comes out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's really not much point in talking about the current meta, because in about 1, maybe 2 weeks, it's just going to be totally different. It's going to be exciting just to be there on those first days, right, when decks are just being invented out of thin air.
Yeah, it's going to be chaos.
Yeah, because so many people joined Hearthstone kind of after closed beta, right? Because closed beta was when a lot of the decks came out, and then some new decks came out with Naxxramas, but it's like with 122, I think, new cards, like every single day you'll be seeing brand new decks that you hadn't even heard of 24 hours ago.
Oh, yeah. And they did this interesting thing where the mech cards, they gave every class, it seems like, some mech-specific cards. So you'll actually see that as an archetype across all classes, and each class will have a different spin on it, which I think is just really neat.
Yeah, it's a really cool way to do it. So it's not like, oh, you want to try the new mech cards? Well, you better play Hunter or whatever. It's like,
right.
Try Mech Mage, try Mech Warlock, see which one you like more. Yeah, I'm really excited to take this Paladin deck that I'm playing now and start working on some mechs into it. Hopefully give me a little more early game survivability. But we'll see. All right, let's jump into our reviews. Thank you for sending in reviews. We got 3 new ones. One of them was 3 stars. Ouch. That hurts, but we still appreciate the review. We'll be reading these top 2. One of these is long, so I'm going to try and get through it quick. Happy Hearthstone can has 6 out of 5 stars, please, says Eric P. Fisher. He says, Josh and guests, notably Adam and Scott. Hey, that's you, buddy.
Hey.
Says, thank you very much for this podcast. I got into the Hearthstone beta but didn't get hooked right away because I was deep into Diablo 3. When Nax came out, I kind of glazed it over. Then everything changed after watching the Hearthstone tournament at BlizzCon this year, and he got totally hooked. Says, so I immediately took to the internet and find information. I listened to The Angry Chicken for a couple episodes, which is another great podcast. And he says it's a great podcast full of great Hearthstone hype, but he needed something more informative and thoughtful about the game. He listened to our How to Pick the Best Cards episode, which I believe was you, Scott, right?
Yeah, I think it was the second time I was on, but I did a lot of homework for that episode. I spent a lot of time on it.
Well, Eric P. Fisher appreciates it.
Awesome.
He says he found exactly the kind of information he was looking for. Your episodes are not only positive and refreshing, but they seek to be informative to Hearthstone players of all levels, especially to beginners like myself who are seeking to grow in skill. That is our goal here. We want to make you better at the game and have more fun while playing it. And he says, please get on Blizzard. Please have a dev on the show. Well, surprise, we are going to have a dev on the show next episode. Actually,
wow.
I didn't even tell you, Scott. This is a world first announcement right here. I just got confirmation from their community manager. They think it's going to be Bren Brode, but they aren't 100% sure who will be on. But we're going to have a developer on the show next episode. So that'll probably be coming out a little later in December, because we're recording middle of December with the developer. So if you have questions you want answered, this is people that make the game will be answering these questions. Send them in to me. I'll send all the contact information at the end. But please let us know. I'll be happy to ask any reasonable questions. No horrible stuff, please.
Well, I am super jealous. That's awesome,
right?
man.
I'm super excited. It's going to be really fun. I tried to talk them into doing a deck battle episode, but they wanted to, keep it more traditional with the interview. So we're going to do an interview maybe once they hear this one, see how fun deck battle episodes can be. Maybe we can get them back for the deck battle episode. But for now, interviews. I'm super excited. Thank you to Blizzard for doing that. We really appreciate it. All right. Next review is as short as the last one was long. 1L says, been listening, been loving, awesome job, great focused content with lots of it. Keep them coming, please. Done and done. All right, Scott, since I lost, I will sing the Card of the Week song, because that is my shame. Card of the Week. Card of the Week. Why didn't I get the Card of the Week? There you go. Card of the Week is Anoyotron. This is another Gnomes versus Goblin card that was just revealed, I think, last week, maybe the week before. It is a 2-cost, 1/2 neutral mech minion with Taunt and Divine Shield and the most ridiculous artwork we've ever seen on a card.
I love everything about this card. I think it's gonna go. It's definitely going in my Paladin deck.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
just no way around that. This is a perfect fit for it. If it fires the redemption, it's a 1/2 taunt Divine Shield that when it dies comes back as 1/1 taunt Divine Shield. I think that's great. That takes 2 hits at least to get through this thing the first time. If it comes back, it's going to take at least another 2 hits to get through. It's well named.
Yeah. I love one of the comments in here that says this card should play annoying sound effects until it is killed.
Yeah.
I mean, because the artwork already it's like a robot with like colorful suspenders and smiley faces and horns and confetti. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see a deck that wouldn't want this. I mean, because I'm going to throw it in my Paladin deck for sure, because if anything, it just slows down aggro, right? I mean, if they either have to throw down silences or throw 2 bodies into it. I mean,
yeah,
it sounds incredible.
I mean, it's not going to do a lot of offensive work, of course, but just as a cheap little defensive guy, he will protect the other things that you've got around if that's important to you. So this might also mean that some of the higher power, lower toughness creatures or minions, those might be more viable now. It's like that 3/1 shaman minion with Wind Fury. Well, if you're loading up your deck with stuff like this, maybe you could actually play that.
Yeah, Magma Rager. I mean,
Yeah.
the 2 cost on this, because the only other thing, correct me if I'm wrong, that's outside of Legendary is that his Taunt Divine Shield is the Sunwalker, right?
Yeah, I think
And
so.
that's so much mana, you can't combo it with much of anything. But here with 2 mana cost, I mean, you could throw down any of those high attack, low health guys, and also throw this guy down on the same turn to keep him safe.
Absolutely. And I love this quote. Like the topmost quote on Hearthstone is, "He's pissing me off already."
Yep, that sounds about right. Yeah, get used to that feeling because you'll be feeling it for months after Gnomes vs. Goblins comes out.
Yep.
All right, we're going to have full show notes, like we said, along with both of our live streams of our deck battles. So you can watch it from both perspectives. Tears on mine, cheers on Scott's side. All of that's going to be on GameDiplomat.com, along with the full deck list for both decks, so you can build the decks and try them out for yourself, which we hope you're doing. And if you try swapping in other cards and put some Nax cards into Scott's deck, put some new cards into my deck, let us know what you put in and what works out well. All right, next week on this show, or not next week, but next episode on this show, like I said, we're going to have a Blizzard interview to talk about the new expansion and Hearthstone in general. Send in your questions. On other shows, the WoW Pet Battle Crew, my other Blizzard-themed podcast, is back, and we're doing Warlords of Draenor pets. Have you played the expansion at all, by the way, Scott?
I just started firing it up. My wife and I played for the first time in like 2 years together today. I really enjoy what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, it's from my perspective, it's easily the best expansion that's been out so far that they've made.
Oh.
You can tell like they weren't distracted by redoing old continents like they were with Cataclysm or making new races or new classes. It's just like, hey, what if we just made the best content that could possibly be made inside of World of Warcraft? And then they did it. Like the garrison and the followers. I mean, there's just all the storytelling and everything is just so well done.
Yeah, the garrisons are pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, right? Because like I'm logging in the morning during my lunch break and nights just to keep my followers on missions. Like it feels a little bit like a Facebook game, but that still doesn't stop me from doing it. Yeah, it's been fun. And just having everyone kind of salute you as commander as you walk around, you're like, yeah, I guess I am sort of a big deal. Thanks. All right, as always, we'd love to know what you thought of this show and what you'd like to see added in future episodes, or what you'd like us to ask the developer when we talk with them on next episode. You can find us on Google+, Happy Hearthstone. You can email me or message me directly on Twitter @jaugustine, or email me at ajosh@outlook.com, or easiest, just comment on the blog gamediplomat.com. I'll be collecting questions and stuff from all of those feeds for the next episode. Scott, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I am @slant76, and on Twitch, I am also slant76.
Awesome. And if people want to ask Scott about his Death Rattle Shaman deck, which sounds horrible and you should not play unless you're a terrible, terrible person, you should ask him there on Twitter.
Yeah, I'll if anybody has interest, I'll post it up to Hearthstone and send out the link.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Because as much as I like to tease you, Scott, for making the most annoying decks I've ever seen in the game, they are crazy fun to play when you're on the other side of it.
Yeah, that's actually more than they're good. There's just a lot of really fun moments in there, a lot of interesting combinations. I mean, they hold their own, they do pretty well, but I just think they're a blast to play.
Yeah. So thank you, Scott, for sharing your fun decks with us again.
Yeah.
All right.
I appreciate the game.
Yeah. We'll get another round in. I'll demand a remake pretty soon.
All right.
All right, so if you've enjoyed the show, you can support me directly to keep it running. You can visit GameDiplomat.com/donate for more information, which includes a list of stretch goals for us to release more podcast episodes and content if we reach certain donation milestones. If you like this show, I sincerely recommend also that you check out all of the awesome shows on the MMO Reporter Network and consider supporting the network as a whole as well. Chris, who owns the network, does a lot of work to keep this podcast and my site running smoothly 24/7. We really appreciate it. You can find more info at MMOreporter.com. Scott, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man, it's been a real fun time.
It's been really fun. Thanks again to everyone else for visiting the Happy Hearthstone and having a little fun with us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Don't forget to check out all the other podcasts at MMOreporter.com or by clicking on any of the links here. And please check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMOreporter. Thanks, everyone, and see you in game.